So it was like Constantine.
And I was doing Da Vinci's Demons for 5 hours before this.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How was that?
Awesome.
It was like Constantine. We have Constantine it bridges the gap in the DC universe. Like we're introducing magic on TV, like magic and health stuff, all of that stuff. What can you say about like what it was like to be able to take that onto TV and like is there a controversy behind it or what was like the?
Of course. But there's controversy trailing John Constantine as a character from the very beginning. You can't be afraid of controversy.
Of course. Especially with something like Constantine, he goes to hell. Like
he goes to hell and he rubs a lot of people the wrong way, and we wouldn't be doing our job right if we weren't at least rubbing a few people the wrong way.
Of course. So I mean, just go ahead.
I was going to say, how much of a fight was it with NBC to try and keep the character as close to the source material?
It really wasn't a fight. I mean, we had an early meeting with him and we said, you know, there are 3 or 4 aspects of the character that we think need to remain sacred. He needs to be British. He's got to have the trench coat and the skinny tie and the spiky blonde hair. He still has to smoke, even within the framework of, you know, what the FCC allows. And he has to be a bastard. And we said, if you're okay with the lead character being a dick, then we'll get along fine. And NBC embraced it. He's a dick.
Like, he's a dick. That's the greatest.
He's a dick.
So how has it been? I mean, I know a lot of creators are actually kind of moving towards cable. How's it been for you coming back to network for, if I'm not mistaken, the first time since Flash Forward?
Yes.
How's it been kind of getting back? Is it different?
It is different. It's different having to write, you know, for act breaks and things like that. But I have to say, so far we've got about 9 episodes under our belt, and I'm really proud of the show. And I know a lot of fans are perhaps nervous that we're softening him, or I think people are going to be surprised.
Were there any particular story arcs from the comic that were influential in building the show?
American Gothic, the story that he was first introduced, we're kind of loosely translating for the first season, but we've also adapted some of the early Delano issues already within the first season. We did a version of the Hunger Demon story, which is really great, and we're talking about some of the other ones from kind of second and third year. We're dipping in and out all the time. I think we just adapted in episode 10 something that was like an episode in issue 55 or something like that. We'll be doing some of the, hopefully if we're on the air long enough, some of the other long arcs later on as well.
And speaking of arcs, it is something that, you know, like, because we all know that Constantine, you know, with other characters like Zatanna or Dr. Fate or any of the other DC magic people, how would it be possible to see Justice League Dark in any way, shape, or form? Would you want him to be a part of something like that?
Yeah, I think you'll see some of those if the show takes off. Even within the first 12 episodes, we've introduced 2 or 3 characters from the broader DC universe that are not just exclusively from Hellblazer. Corrigan's been mentioned, but there's a couple of other characters we haven't talked about that'll show up as well.
Okay.
And if the show takes off and we get our back 9 and we come back a second season, we sort of have access to that whole corner of the occult universe. So hopefully we'll be introducing those characters as is appropriate.
I know a lot of fans have a question about kind of the structure of the Master, just DC TV universe as it's shaping up as a whole. You know, you got shows, you got like Arrow, you got Flash, you got Supergirl coming to CBS, you have Titans reportedly coming to TNT, and you have Constantine on NBC, different networks, but all one studio company. I think a lot of fans are wondering, is there room for movement where even though these characters are on different networks because they are under one master house, could we see them interact?
You know, never say never. There aren't any immediate plans, but it would be interesting to try that, to do kind of an inter-network crossover. I think anything's possible, but you know, we have to get our sea legs first. We've got a premiere in a couple of weeks, and hopefully the audience likes what we've got, and then we'll see.
I know one of his biggest confrontations that everyone would love to see adapted onto the screen was Constantine and Swamp Thing. Is that something that has been thrown around at all?
It's been thrown around. It's not something I think we'd attempt in the first season, and we need to make sure that we can pull off the special makeup effects. We don't want to do a cheesy version of Swamp Thing. So, you know, that is... It's a lot easier to do Dr. Occult or Zatanna, you know, or, you know, Jim Corrigan than it is to do Swamp Thing. So we'll see.
So speaking of big confrontations with Constantine, what about another one of the villains, Papa Midnight?
Oh, Papa Midnight is a recurring character in the show.
Okay.
You will see him in episode 3. He's played by a guy named Michael James Shaw, who's amazing. And it's, as a fan, it's just a thrill to watch these two characters spar. He's already, I think he's in 3 or 4 episodes in the First Order.
Okay.
So he's a recurring character.
Is there any iconic character or monster? Well, let's stick to the monsters or villain that you can tease that you've been really excited to either write.
Iconic character or monster?
Yeah.
Lord. That we're planning?
Or that you've seen just even in the concept art or just in the makeup and production, you've seen tests and you're like, yes, that's really kind of struck a chord with you.
There's one that I don't want to mention because we've seen the designs, and if we can pull off on film the designs, it's definitely a monster that shows up in the early Constantine stories. Very beautifully drawn, and we have to make sure that we can bring it to 3D life. So we're actually filming that episode right now. I don't want to say what it is because hopefully it looks as good as the designs look.
Oh, that's good.
David,
Last question.
all right. You have had your hand in a lot of different characters for DC, including Batman, doing Superman, doing now Batman vs Superman, Constantine. Is there any character from the DC wheelhouse that you haven't really had a chance to work on or work with that you really would love to just get a chance to take a crack at?
Commandy. I love those. I love those. I love the Great Disaster.
There's your Kirby.
Yeah.
That's an excellent answer.
All right.
Do you have a big comic book collection?
I used to have a very big one.
Here's my card.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I've got a so-so one.
Sorry. David.
Yes, of course.
Recorder died on me. My batteries died.
Professional or amazing.
Shit. So I may have to follow up and get audio from you.
Okay.
Anybody else have a card? I want to make my battery.